And I'd like to call the meeting of the Type B Corporation to order. And Ms. Huerta, if you would please call the roll.
President Leah Oliveri.
Present.
Vice President Alan Wilson. Secretary Diana Summers.
Here.
Board members Scott Harris.
Here.
Jesus Jimenez.
Here.
Robert Tamez. John Balls. Okay, so we do have a quorum present to conduct the meeting.
Thank you. And I see that we have Ms. Sanchez here for the city manager's office. Thank you. Is there anybody here that would like to make a public comment? We'll get to the university later. Ms. Huerta, do we have any requests for any comments?
No, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Regarding absences, first of all, I'll take the approval of the minutes, but we did have a couple of absences that I'd like to discuss after that.
So moved. Second.
I hear a motion and a second in favor of approval of the regular meeting minutes of April 17th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Scott and Diana, did y'all have business? I think you, didn't you? Would you like an excuse?
Business. I
Yeah.
don't need an excused absence.
I was absent on business as well, so
Would you like an excuse?
I'm fine without one.
Okay.
So.
Just wanted to ask, and I have spoken to our attorney, and we are going to take a look at that part of our procedures because there was a little confusion over us versus other boards, and she's going to be working on maybe some procedural improvements regarding our absence policies and get those back to us. Okay, next up, financial report. And we have a financial officer ready to go.
Good afternoon, Heather Hurlbert, Director of Finance. So today we will be reviewing the financial statements for the 6 months ended March 31st, 2023. We began the fiscal year with a fund balance of $12.5 million for the 3 consolidated funds. Revenues year-to-date are $4.6 million. Expenditures year-to-date are a little over $700,000, leaving a fund balance as of March 31st of $16.4 million. So we'll go into a little bit more detail on the 3 different funds. Looking at the expenditures as of March 31st, our primary expenditures are within the economic development expenses, and those were primarily for the small business projects or those ongoing contracts that we have, the major business incentives, the Regional Economic Development Corporation contract, along with the transfers to the general fund for administration. Looking at our affordable housing, we have commitments of a little over $2 million, one being the infill housing incentive program and the other being the ALMA at Greenwood. Then looking at our economic development, we do have numerous commitments over the next several years, but still do have significant revenue and fund balance for additional projects. And then looking at our streets, we did have a project that did budget for about $4.1 million, and that was for the redo of the business park area that has already been transferred to our CIP fund. So then looking at our revenues, revenues continue to be strong. So the sales tax revenues year to date the collections have been $141,000 more than what was budgeted. Again, in this case, over budget is a good thing. We do employ conservative techniques when we budget for our revenues and forecast those revenues, but we do continue to have strong collections. So that does conclude my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Does the board have any questions? Okay, just one quick comment. While you report to us on streets, we're basically the pass-through for the
Exactly.
funds, and
Yes.
we do not have anything to do with the selection or administration or anything of any of the street funds. I just want to point that out to people.
Yes.
Because somebody asked me, and I said, "Me no Alamo." So we leave that up to the experts. So with that,
Okay, thank you.
I think we can move along. Are we ready for the presentation or discussion with the university, Texas A&M University? Thank you, Doctor.
Well, I just wanted to begin by thanking you all for your support of the university. Dr. Ma is our new Dean of the College of Engineering and Computing Science, so he's going to give you an update on where we're at with the project. But I just wanted to make sure to thank you personally for everything you've done to help support the university, and we hope we continue to do things that make you proud and bring recognition to Corpus Christi. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dean Ma.
Thank you, President Miller. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to be here to talk about the programs in engineering, particularly in civil and in industrial engineering. I guess before I dive into the presentation, I'd like to thank our team, especially the VP for Institutional Advancement, Ms. Barrera, for her and her team to help put together this presentation. And also, I know that I understand that we had the support for several years, and which is really instrumental for us in launching these two programs. And I hope that when we dive into this presentation and you start to see some of the progress we have made so far, that will convince you that we have put your support, your funds in good use, and you'll be happy that the funds, your support is worth a while. So as the president mentioned that we started a new college last year. So I had the privilege to become the first dean for this college. It's really exciting. But also I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of let you know a little bit about myself. Probably just only take maybe 1 minute or so. So my background is a little bit sort of like a checkerboard. So I have been to different places.
I think there's some confusion going on in the background.
Oh,
Oh, there's a button. Oh, okay.
Go up and down, push the down. That's perfect.
thank you, John.
Let me see.
It's going to be right here.
Oh, keyboard. Oh, I was
You're just
thinking
going to
about
press
that.
enter right there.
Old style.
All right. Engineers, I guess, have to figure that out. Yeah. So my background is a little bit kind of like a checkerboard. As I said, I've studied a very different subject. My bachelor's degree was actually in naval architecture and ocean engineering, and then I went on to get a master's degree in mechanical design and theory, and another master's degree is in electrical and computer engineering. And eventually, I got my PhD in mechanical engineering. And I have worked as a welder, as you might, probably not imagine. I worked as a welder before and a structural engineer. And then I became a faculty member in civil engineering for over 17 years without a civil engineering degree, as you can see, at the University of Hawaii, before coming to Corpus. So the experience actually, I won't say that I know a lot about engineering, but that kind of experience did help me communicate and, with different kinds of engineer and scientists in different fields. So I hope I can really make some difference here in Corpus. As you can see that we use the Type B board funds to build 5 labs. Some of you have already toured the labs before. And these labs actually have been used for courses, for educational purposes, and as well as research. As you can see, the labs actually provide the unique opportunity for students to gain hands-on experience. But also, the labs provide the opportunity for them to pursue research aspirations as well. The labs also are a great asset for faculty. As you know, a lot of our faculty are working on funded research projects, and having a lab or having these labs on campus without having to go to College Station or somewhere else is really helpful and really enhances the productivity and innovation. So the construction, oh. All right. So we have done a lot in terms of education. We created all these courses and a lot of projects for students to work on. But today I'm going to just highlight 2 educational activities. In fall 2022, we just passed, this semester. For the first time, we have used the equipment in concrete and in construction material lab to teach civil and industrial engineering classes. And namely, we have 2 new courses actually was taught for the first time, which is Geotechnical Engineering 1 and Civil and Construction Materials. Those are the 2 courses that actually use the lab equipment for the first time in fall. And we plan to expand these activities in spring and in the following semesters when we were going to introduce more lab modules into these labs and also introduce the lab equipment to other engineering courses. And secondly, I want to mention that we have completed the installation of a 3D MD full body scanner. That was, for some of you who have seen it, it was really fantastic equipment that shows a lot of cool images. So this equipment also was used in spring. We just used it in a course in industrial engineering, studying, focusing on computer and human interactions. So of course, these facilities will be expanded. The use of them will be expanded to other engineering courses. Okay, I'm going backwards. I'm sorry. Yeah. I think this makes me nervous, I guess, in the setting like this. Okay. So research has been going very strong. As you can see, we are a research university right now. The college actually, last year we secured a record high number of research awards, and we produce a lot of research products. For example, the Structural Dynamics Laboratory also funded through this funding opportunity. They produce quite a few high-quality publications out of the research projects. I wanted to highlight one paper, and that was recently published in the top civil engineering journal called Computer-Aided Civil and Infrastructure Engineering. This is really one of the top, I would say probably top 3 journals, if you will, by the ranking in civil engineering. And just give you an idea, this paper, actually, I knew it. This paper was reviewed by 8 experts, global experts. Most of them actually, every one of them actually is a faculty member somewhere. We don't know their names, of course. So, so 8 reviewers really grilled the authors. They have to really respond to all the review comments. And eventually, the paper was accepted, and the editor was very happy with it. So he even asked the author to provide an image so that it can be considered as a cover image for the journal, which is really a really good recognition for the impact of the paper. And of course, we have other papers presented at national, international conferences, and even paper produced by students as well. And all these things they have done in structural dynamics lab. Actually, part of the results were obtained by the computational nodes purchased through this fund. So I want to make sure that I credit the funding for the achievement. And in the augmented reality laboratory, who also received funds from Type B board funds, we have students working on research projects, undergraduate students, and one of them actually presented a poster at the Spring Student Research Symposium at TMUCC just a couple of months ago. And in the hydraulics and hydrology laboratory, Professor Hua Zhang and his students actually just finished a study focusing on aerial characterization of surface depression for urban watersheds. I think they use a lot of data from Corpus and South Bend, Coastal Bend area. And the student actually working in the lab, they're making different 3 academic presentations, and they have worked out a journal article that has been submitted for publication. So these are just a simple, just a snapshot of what has been going on in terms of research. Of course, I want to share with you how much we have spent and how much we have in remaining. So we spent about $1.5, $1.6 million total, and these are the basically breakdowns and shows that how much each lab actually received. We have about $400-something thousand remaining funds. The idea is to purchase a piece of equipment that can be used for civil and industrial engineering faculty members. Of course, other faculty members will have access to it too. So what it is that we're going to purchase a scanning electron microscope, and that's a really high-end equipment that characterizes materials down to nanoscale, especially when we talk about cementitious materials, for example, the high-performance concrete. You need a lot of nanotechnologies in order to actually make it happen. So we wanted to invest in that area, and because our faculty, we have a group of faculty that actually will be using this facility to characterize nanoscale materials, including concrete, composite, biomedical, and other material, nano film, thin films, and things like that. We also talked to, before we make the decision, of course, we also pulled faculty on campus in other departments. We wanted to maximize the impact of the funds of this equipment, basically. So from what I hear, that people are very excited. For example, life sciences, chemistry, and Heart Institute, they are very excited that we will be acquiring this kind of, the top-notch equipment that will be also available for them. And we will actually have a dedicated space for the equipment, and probably we're going to set up a service center to ensure that proper maintenance and use of this equipment. So with that being said, we will complete the laboratory setup by the end of this year. Of course, by completion, I mean this phase of the lab will never stop developing, right? So we have one new faculty joined us since last August, Dr. Ning Lo. He currently is an assistant professor in civil engineering, and his area of expertise is in geotech engineering. And he got his PhD from Louisiana State. And after graduation, he worked at Louisiana DOT for a little while. So he has real practicing real-world experience. And he also teaches geotechnical engineering courses. Also, he teaches transportation courses. And we have another faculty member who will be joining us in this coming fall in August, in industrial engineering. He's a fresh PhD from University of Illinois. In terms of curriculum and course development, we have developed 12 new courses for civil engineering, including all these laboratories supported by the Type B funds. And we also have developed 14 new courses for industrial engineering that also have, of course, have been supported by the funds. And currently what we're doing is we're developing more courses serving as technical electives for students so that they can actually broaden their horizon in addition to these core courses. And enrollment has been going strong, I think. We have seen a really upward trend for most of the programs. As you can see, the industrial engineering seems to be a little bit slow. But if you look at the forecast, for the Department of Labor and all of that, you will see that industrial engineering, actually there's a big industry demand in industrial engineering, especially when the energy industry is picking up and they will, the supply chain and all that kind of issues will need a lot of workforce to handle. I think industrial engineering will grow in the near future, probably will grow very fast. And graduation data, I have to say that the data, it's very hard to collect graduation data. Basically, what you see are the percentages, right? So then when we calculate percentages, you need numerators and denominators. Now, we know exactly what our denominators are because we know how many graduates we graduated. But the numerators sometimes are very hard to determine because it's largely basically relying on students self-reporting to us where they actually work or where they are right now. Some of them don't really respond to our questionnaires and things. So we're thinking about how to improve that process. Hopefully, data collection will become a little bit better. But I have to say, this is a kind of pervasive problem in all universities. I think it's just hard to track everybody. We try our best trying to find out where they are right now. So we have a person actually sort of cyber stalking them, just looking at the LinkedIn and all that. So we try our best to find all these, info, all these data. So it looks like, about 30% of mechanical engineering and 23% of electrical engineering graduates, they either started their first job here or currently are working here in the coastal band. Now, the 53 or 45 or 46% of mechanical and electrical engineering students, they actually work outside coastal band. And there are people also outside the state. So it's just that I wanted to point out that, these things don't add up to 100% because we don't know the rest of the data. But I'm sure we will improve on that in terms of maybe adding a little bit more manpower and trying to keep track of the graduates. We'll have maybe more accurate data along the way. This is the fun part. I think I wanted to show you that we really have ramped up our research. As you can see, the research awards from FY21 to FY22 almost doubled. With the current kind of the faculty size, I think it was quite impressive. And this year, actually, I don't have the number yet, but I can confidently say that the number actually is even higher than FY 2020 last year. So I think that's the end of my presentation. If there are any
Okay.
questions,
I'm
please.
sure there will be. Does anybody have any questions?
No, just this is great. It's a good program, and yeah, industrial and civil engineering are heavily needed right now. So it's great. I commend you for what the university is doing, Doctor, and Dr. Thank you.
Mr. Harris?
Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Ma, nice seeing you again. Your industrial engineering numbers on the low end, are y'all kind of worried about? I thought, Corpus Christi with industry here, and would there be a larger interest in that, or is there a concern, or?
I don't think it's necessarily a concern. I think what we're trying to do now is, starting last year, we were trying to do a centralized recruiting, if you will, outreach and recruiting event. So for the college. So what I found from my understanding is that a lot of the students do not know what industrial engineering do. So they don't really. They either confuse it with mechanical or mechanical technology and things like that. So we wanted to clarify that more, and with more outreach, I think the demand is right there. So I don't think I'm worried about the enrollment at this point.
We launched that program during COVID, which did not help with growth of either program. But they're picking up. But if you notice, there's a pre-engineering number. So those students have not yet selected, so they get an opportunity to see all the areas. So that group alone, we may see more out of that, but we're also recruiting beyond that. Opportunities with the high schools to get that information out there. But it's a high demand area. So the other thing that we're working on through institutional outreach is increasing our areas. One of the things we've seen is that word of mouth through students who get an internship not only helps to keep our students in the program, but it also helps other students know what you can do with that degree. So that's another effort. much as we can, but also to have an opportunity to educate them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Dr. Ma.
Anybody else? I have two things. One, just to add to data, a lot of these engineers may end up going to work for a company. And that company may have offices here, but they may end up in wherever. And I think that's one of the difficulties with this kind of data with these professional positions, because you
Right.
could be working in the Netherlands, I mean, but you're still Texas-based, if you will. So it is tough.
And the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board is on that because lots of schools have that issue, like where did the students, and so they are working on how to better be able to leverage data to help inform us, and it's not just self.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
And then the other thing, the other thing that I
Okay.
want to say is I took them up on their opportunity to tour out there. And I thought one of the more interesting couple of interesting things I noticed was how engaged the students were in the projects. I mean, they were really eager to talk about their projects and how those projects and efforts in teaching were oriented towards problems we have here locally. For example, in the materials, it was very much towards concrete that can withstand the specific kind of conditions we have in the coastal bend. So it was nice to see that connection to, our world here, if you will. I appreciate that. I've also had the opportunity to meet with Dr. Hernandez, who is the new Dean of Science. And I think he is another person that offers a lot of opportunities and is interested in working on business connections to science and students. So I've put him in touch and hope that Ms. Sotelo, who is here from the EDC, Vice President from the EDC representing Mr. Culbertson, they're working with the staff and others on trying to talk about how do you link all this from an economic development point of view, and where might we be able to participate in that. So, somebody has a button pushed? You? Oh, it's not the right person. Okay, sorry. Yeah,
I
that's
think
you?
I
You're
accidentally
Mr.
pushed the button,
Salazar
too.
Garza.
When I was
Or
trying to
Ms.
turn it on, I think I pushed a button.
No,
too,
it
so-
wasn't you. Sometimes they don't reset who's who. So go for it, John.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, I'm roughly 30 years out of undergrad and 25 years out of graduate school, and both universities' alumni associations track me down wherever I'm at. So I would imagine that,
Right.
that somehow you could track them down.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
They have Elvia Aguilar now in charge of that, right?
yeah, Jesus, no matter where I move to, they track me down. So I seem to remember or recall when the program was first enabled in the legislature. God, it's been a long time. It seemed like the push for the school, or the college rather, was to support the industries. And I remember the Port Authority at the time, because I was working with the port, was heavily involved in working with our local delegation to create the College of Engineering and create the program, mainly to support the industries, okay? Is that like what Mr. Harris was saying? I mean, I don't see a whole lot of that here. So what's the intent there to really, and how closely, if at all, I'm sure you have a plan to work with the industries. You know, we've got major refineries here, major employers here. There's new growth like crazy. Exxon is here,
Right.
Cheniere is now here, Oxy, everybody's coming here. The Tesla factory is going to be opening up.
Yeah.
So, because, I mean, and they're major employers. I mean, they're employing
Right.
thousands of people. So it would seem to me that those would be, good, breeding grounds for, getting these students into, number one, internships, because then hopefully you can capture them and keep them here.
Right. Absolutely. I think this is actually absolutely our top priority. So I think I have talked to a lot of people, like when they ask me about my vision of the college. So I told them the top one the top priority for me is to produce industry-ready graduates. So that's for sure. I mean, but the reason why they choose to go somewhere elsewhere, I guess there's a lot of factors. One of the things what we're trying to do is with the university support, the Career Professional Development Center, is that we're trying to connect more with the industry so that our students would know actually there are opportunities here. They don't have to look far, right? And also the industry, I was hoping that the industry through that connection can give us feedback in terms of what actually we can do to improve our curriculum, to train the students to be more ready for their jobs, right? So there are things I think we can do. Well, I mean, in terms of job selection, I think it's a personal, thing, but we can try to, make it easier for them to see the opportunities right here by connecting with the industry more.
Okay.
And we have, particularly around the things we're doing with drones, and then also coastal marine sciences and engineering. We work with the port on so many different types of projects, but I think one of the things that's exciting about the work that they do is that they bring those groups together. So as Dean Ma has joined us, Hart Research Institute is now adding in much more work around with engineers. Drones are being added into all of this different work. And so bringing those together, either whether we're hired by those groups or contracted by those groups to come and do designated work like, look at the soils around Exxon or something like that, or whether it's capstone course projects or whatever it is, bringing those students together in a real world setting, because you need different types of people in those settings working together, and then exposing all of them to the opportunities to the port or to the various industries, and so that they can pick and choose from our best and our brightest.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand that, probably a good percentage of your students that are in your program are not from here. So whether they're going back to where they originally came from or not, and I don't fault them for that. But I think when the program was envisioned and created, it was really mainly to support the industries, and evolving into where it is today. Hopefully it gets to that point. We've funded the drone program, we funded this program, we funded the internship program. So we fund a lot of programs for the university. Is there a point where it's going to be a handoff, where there's going to be maybe another type of program we're going to look at? I mean, I'd like for us to start looking in the healthcare field, but I mean, are y'all going to be at a point where, okay, we're good and we're kind of, taking it from here?
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely they have really, with the funding that they've received, they're advancing. And as you could see, their sponsored research and other funding sources continue to increase as we grow students. That also, helps to support those areas. And actually, since you mentioned it, we are looking at launching public health and increasing our healthcare areas.
Good.
Particularly post-pandemic, we know that health disparities is a huge issue. Yeah. And we can serve our community, but then also serve the greater, the nation and the world with some of the research that we do here. So we're very excited about those opportunities as well.
Well, good. Well, we look forward to seeing those also come before us. I mean, the university has just grown tremendously under your leadership, and it's amazing what it is now for our community. So I think the board's always receptive to helping.
I want to get to this
But
next one.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. And Dr. Mueller, we didn't get to this today, but maybe sometime you can also update us on the drones.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Everything is moving along and
Okay.
going very well,
Yeah,
but
when
I'll be
you-
happy to
in
come
the
back
next
with
few
a more
months when
in-depth
you think
report.
there's, the building's all got furniture in it and everything. So-
And I will let you know that we have moved pieces forward even as we're waiting through the building, because with hyperinflation and supply chain issues, some of that was slowed a
Slow.
bit. But we still have the command center being put in the Flower Bluff building, so it can just be moved over. People are being trained. The Beyond Line of Sight studies already occurred. We've already hired
Right.
2 people. So we are moving forward even as we work through the complications
Great.
of a post-COVID build or remodel. So,
Okay, thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dr. Mueller.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Jamie, thank you. So with that, I saw that the city manager joined us. Do you have any report or comments, one of the two?
Good afternoon. Just on behalf of the City Manager's Office, I wanted to thank Dr. Miller and Dr. Ma for coming this afternoon, and thank you for your continued partnership with the City of Corpus Christi and your collaboration. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Only other thing I'll mention real quick to all of y'all is I'm going to ask, working with the EDC and Joe, to see if we can't get a tour set up of SBDC. If y'all have been through it, fine. I haven't, and I heard it's quite impressive. So I've spoken to Mr. Colson about maybe finding some dates to do that. Okay, great. And with that, if there's no further meeting, I'll adjourn this meeting and we'll reset. If there's somebody named Staff One, I don't know. .07 or something like that, and I call the meeting to order, please, of the Type A Corpus Christi Business and Job Development Corporation. If you were listening in, sorry, our last meeting ran a little long. Ms. Huerta, would you call the roll?
President Leo Oliveri,
Present.
Vice President Alan Wilson, Secretary Diana Summers,
Present.
Board Members Scott Harris,
Here.
Jesus Jimenez,
Here.
Robert Tamez, and John Balls. Okay, we have a quorum present to conduct the meeting.
Thank you. Is there anybody here that would like to make a public comment? I don't see anyone. Ms. Huerta, did we have any requests or comments?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Moving along, I assume the same is true about the excused absences that we had previously. Mr. Harrison? Ms. Summers? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 7th and 17th? Okay, Mr. Tamez, second. Mr. Valls? All those in favor, please say aye. And with
Aye.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Harris and Ms. Summers do not request an excused absence, even though they were absent for business reasons. And with that, the financial report.
Good afternoon, Committee Chair, Board Chairman, Chairwoman Heather Hurlbert, Director of Finance. So today we will review the financial statements for the 6 month ended March 31st, 2023. We began the fiscal year in the Seawall Fund with a balance of $20 million. Revenues to date equal $4.7 million. Our expenditures year to date are $2.8 million, and our ending fund balance as of March 31st is $22 million. That does not include, there are $35 million, about $35.5 million in funds that has been transferred to the CIP for designated projects within the CIP fund. Speaking of those, this is a list of all the projects that are within the CIP fund. We will be working with engineering. There are some of these that that are ready to be closed out, and so we'll get those closed out and completed and off this list.
Thank you.
And go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. And then moving over to the Arena Fund.
Before you leave that one, we had asked the Marina superintendent to join us today, but we've had to delay that until next month just to give us an update on some of these capital projects.
Yes, yes. And then on the Arena Fund, the beginning fund balance for the year was $15.6 million. Our revenues year to date are $4.6 million. Expenditures year to date are $713,000, and then the ending fund balance is $19.5 million. And then moving into the Economic Development Fund, so just a reminder that the Economic Development Fund is no longer receiving funds through the Type A. That funding was moved over to the Type B. So these are the remaining balances that were left after that contribution ceased. The beginning fund balance for fiscal year '23 was $1.7 million. Revenues year-to-date are $35,000, and that is from interest on investments. The expenditures year-to-date are $44,000, leaving an ending fund balance as of March 31st of $1.7 million. Total outstanding commitments and expenditures are almost that 1.688 million, leaving available fund balance of $45,000 for future commitments. In addition, there is, of that $45,000, there is $10,000 available for affordable housing. That was due to a refund that came back. And we will be presenting, during budget, we'll be presenting some proposals on how we want to utilize that fund. So that does leave us with $35,000 for other economic development eligible projects. So looking at the affordable housing, like I said, we do have that $10,000 that is available. And then we have other commitments. One is the fish pond and the other is the Alma and Greenwood. I do know that the fish pond, I believe, is coming to completion. They've had some challenges, but that should be paid out hopefully within the next few months. Looking at our major business incentives, we do have several that are still outstanding, including the Texas A&M Civil and Industrial Engineering piece, along with the Del Mar College. And then the water fields, those have been completed, and I believe that those should be showing fully committed, or fully paid out in the next month or so. And then looking at our sales tax revenue updates, again, we are above our collections, our budgeted collections by $282,000. We always budget conservatively on our revenues, and so this is a good position to be in, to be over budget on our revenues. So that does conclude my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
And that revenue is only for the arena and for the seawall?
That is correct,
There
yes.
is no economic development revenue?
That is
Does
correct.
anybody have any questions or comments?
You turn your mic on, please.
I'd like to see the arena fund balance, please.
There you go. We have about 19.5 million. Sure.
Okay, if there's not any more comment on the financial report, we'll move to agenda item number 3, and that is a motion authorizing the appropriation of arena funds in the amount of $6.5 million from the unreserved fund balance in the arena fund for the American Bank Center Arena Urgent Mechanical Improvements and ABC Arena Landscaping, transferring the funds from the Arena Fund to the Arena Capital Improvement Fund. And with that, I see that we have Mr. Edmonds at the mic and to explain this to us.
Thank you, Madam President, board members. The situation is that we've completed a facility assessment on ABC, the Auditorium Convention Center, and there is a large number of kind of capital maintenance items that need to be addressed there. The current situation regarding chilling at the arena is that there's 2,000-ton crane chillers. Only one of those is operational. The one that's non-operational is being used for spare parts to keep the other one running. So we're kind of on our last legs with this situation. And there's been discussion about possibly doing emergency declaration to affect replacement of those units as rapidly as possible. Through those discussions, we realized that, well, we've still got to take this item to appropriate the funds to Type A, and probably have to go to council with that item as well, unlike a normal emergency declaration, which, like in the utilities department, which gives the manager access to fund balances. So that's why we're bringing the item today to appropriate from that arena fund balance into the capital program to be able to affect some of these urgent improvements.
So number 6, I don't know, these have not been changed for me. So Mandel, who is it? No, I see you. I know who you are. You're Salazar. Is that you? Okay. Mr. Temez.
Can you turn your mic on, Mr. Timmons?
Yeah. Sorry.
They're not working, neither one of them.
No,
of
one
them
is working, one is not working. We're basically using the non-working one for spare parts for the one that is working.
Okay, I understand that neither one are working, and that a contractor has been hired to do the work of whenever the ice rinks need work on the ice.
No, the ice rink chiller hasn't worked in a long, long time, and they've been paying about $200,000 a year to get a chiller and to do the ice rink.
But you're aware they have a contract for them chillers to?
I'm aware of the ice rink one. My understanding was the building chillers are still functional, or one of the chillers is functional.
Okay.
Is that,
So-
Mike?
So, my question is, what is the problem that they can't be repaired, both of them at one time? Or is it better to have it contracted, or is it better just to replace both of them completely?
What they're recommending, the consultants that did this facility assessment are recommending replacement of both of those units. They're highly depreciated, so I would say they're at the end of their economic life, plus they're using the obsolete coolant, which is becoming increasingly unavailable. So they are.
You know, did they recommend to just replace both of them completely?
Yes.
Or just contract them? Which
They
one is more
recommend
feasible?
replacing both of them. And the concern that we've got, and the reason we want to expedite this, is if we lose the one that's functioning, you're going to have to bring in portable cooling, and it's very expensive to do that. It can be $150,000 or more a month to rent one of those units.
The lead time on these is pretty good, too, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, you're talking about maybe 18-month lead time. So what we're thinking about with the emergency declaration is to circumvent some of the procurement steps and maybe pre-purchase that equipment, and do it as owner-furnished equipment, so that when you hire the installer, it'll, rather than wait until you've given them a notice to proceed before you start that, you can start that well ahead.
Do you know how much is chiller cost?
Pardon me?
What's the expense to buy them brand new? Do you know how much it is?
Well, the current estimate, and we don't have real good numbers on it at this point, but the estimate was $5 million.
Does the American Bank Center hire new workers operators for each one? Or just anybody can jump in and do the work?
Well, my understanding is that just the daily maintenance is going to be part of the OVG contract.
Okay, so is the American Bank Center, are they going to be looking at a preventive maintenance on them so that this won't happen again?
I certainly hope so, and I think that's part of the issue that we had with the prior operator, but I think we've got to make sure that recapitalization is somehow looked after, whether it's on our operator or whether it's on us.
You can sit right there, maybe.
Hello, good afternoon, Board and Madam Chair. Yes, as Jeff
Please
mentioned,
introduce yourself.
Elsie Borkstead, an
Yes.
assignment with the American Bank Center. I have been working on from the contractual standpoint with the new operator with OVG. And so, as Jeff mentioned, there is some requirements that are on the new management firm to handle operations and maintenance. So routine maintenance, day-to-day maintenance will be handled by the operator. The problem that we face right now is that, unfortunately, the current equipment is beyond your routine maintenance and repair. It really has come to a point that we need to replace it and have some redundancies in place, because the chillers that we're talking about right now here is for the AC for the entire facility, which is over 180,000 square foot complex, right, just on the arena alone. And so it's imperative that we change that and put in a preventive maintenance plans to move forward in the future to properly upkeep this equipment.
Okay, a board member, Mr. Valls has a question?
few, and I don't know if I have enough latitude here, but I would like to have just maybe the next meeting.
You turn your mic on, so sorry.
I'm sorry. Maybe at the next meeting, I would like to have the American Bank Center on the agenda so we can just talk about a lot of different things with the American Bank Center, management, operations, a bunch of different stuff. But here, so I mean, Jeff, is this just a Band-Aid for the American Bank Center? Because I'm hearing 50 million in repairs, 250 to update the whole thing. Heck, the whole thing's not worth 250.
No,
So, so is this just a Band-Aid, or is this a wise use of money?
Well, this is going to be a necessary use of money.
Okay.
And this is something that, we're in a bit of a race against, full failure. And we want to get out of a situation where we're having to pay, as much as a couple $100,000 a month to rent a temporary unit. But we got to start now. We got to try and compress that schedule as much as possible to get those replacement units. Now, and the whole complex out there, based on this report, I think it was around $30 million of capital maintenance that they're recommending. That's full facility, building envelope, roofs, all of that sort of thing. And this was part of that.
Well, we spent a bundle of money within the last few years in closing that outside smoking area, building new suites on the opposite side. Maybe we should have put it into something like this. I had assumed that we had already done a facility assessment, a comprehensive facility assessment, to know what kind of major repairs needed to be addressed immediately. And now we're just getting hit with this, and we've pumped, I know Mr. Tamez and I have been over there, and we've pumped millions of dollars into it, but those might have just been cosmetic. And now we actually need to address basically the bones of the facility. Even though that was the arena, I know.
I'm going to editorialize a little bit. I think that, and it's not an uncommon thing that I see in my universe where, you're focusing on things that maybe enhance functionality and so forth, and not as much in the bones. And you've really got to kind of do both. And so I think, and I'm not sure how we're going to divide that responsibility up with OVG, but somebody has to be doing that, and you've got to be reinvesting in the asset, or else you get into a really bad situation.
Well, that's where we are now. So are you going to be coming to the board with a capital improvement program, a comprehensive capital improvement program to address all of the critical needs?
I believe that's a plan.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, and what is your position you're with OVG? No?
Elsie Borgstead, the Assistant Director of Aviation. I'm a city employee on
So you're at the
assignment.
airport?
I'm actually here at City Hall on assignment, working specifically this project, this contract. Yes, and the transition from the old operator, formerly ASM,
But you
to
said
OBG.
You said you're with the aviation department? You're with the airport?
I am, yes.
Okay, I'm confused.
I know.
Okay, so your title again?
Assistant Director of Aviation.
Assistant Director of Aviation, which is the airport, and
That
then
is
they
correct.
have you on assignment to work on this deal?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Somebody can explain that math to me later, but,
So she's actually
Yeah.
managing the
So
contract.
I am managing the contract. I'm overseeing the transition that has been
Okay,
taking
good.
place this last couple
so you're
months.
the point person over there. then.
Yes, and from the city's perspective, really
I know Peter left
honing.
the room. Is that on
stepped out.
purpose?
It's really to focus, really, from the city's perspective, precisely on items like these. The capital
Okay.
reinvestment,
Well, just to get you
reinvestment
ready
on
for
the
next-
building.
Just to get you ready for the next time, if we have it on the agenda. I don't know what's going on at the American Bank Center. I attended an event there not long ago, and everything was awful. Everything was awful. How many contractors do we have out there? The person to serve me water couldn't serve me tea. Again, these are first world problems, but so
I'd love to have a
just be ready
side
for
conversation
that.
on that,
Yeah.
definitely, to address your
Yeah, so
concerns.
just be ready for that. But on this deal, I mean, this money is obligated for the American Bank Center.
Correct.
Right? So we can't spend it anywhere else but there.
Correct.
So we almost have.
That is correct. And this is why, as we transition, like I said, from the previous
This?
operator.
No, it's the chiller that gets it
The
cool.
previous operator had under their authority to handle some of these capital projects. With the new contract now and the new management firm, really these capital and building envelope programs is now part of the city's responsibility. So we're managing, we're looking out. Hence, that's why last year when we came in August of '22 to talk about the list of reallocation of funding, we said we were going to do a facility assessment and come back to the board with potential new projects. And this is where we're at today. We did complete the report around October's timeframe or so. We've been since then working with engineering and OBG to assess what is a priority listing. We're still working through that. It's over 300-page document. It's quite substantial, but it's for the whole complex that includes Salina Convention Arena. Now there is a prioritization that we're going through. We'll be coming during the budget process to provide that to the board and also to council and work that through that process, that capital program. But at this point, the assessment is that there's some urgent deferred maintenance that we need to address immediately.
Okay, so these two chillers, Jeff, they'll take you through for quite a while, right? These aren't Band-Aids, are they?
No, this is complete replacement.
20-plus years.
You can have a motion.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
like I said, these are items that have been identified by engineering firm, a third party, that came in and did a full assessment from roof, building envelope, and including the equipment, kitchens, everything. But like I said, these are part of that report, but in working with the different events and the different issues and the urgency
you,
is,
right?
if we lose the AC in the building, we wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to host any events.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So this is where
I
we're
get it.
at.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
for
there's
sure.
other ones, right? Like the board member mentioned the hockey eyes. That's a different chiller.
Yeah,
We're talking a different
This is just to keep the
equipment.
air cool.
This is for the air. Yes.
Okay, so that's your, obviously, staff recommendation is to approve
To
this?
yes. Sir.
Okay, Ms.
Wonderful.
Summers
Thank
has
you.
some questions.
Well, one of them was the useful life, and you said it's 20-plus years is the useful life of these two new chillers.
Just about.
Okay. With the previous chillers, I mean, from the sounds of it, the previous management companies weren't doing the daily maintenance that needed to be.
It's a combination of preventive maintenance. It's a combination of maybe repairs that maybe years ago should have,
How old
could
are
have,
they?
would have been done, and maybe the funding was not there, or they were just not done.
So
But in right now,
they're at
the
the end.
assessment is that they're beyond repairs.
And how old are the current chillers?
It's about 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah,
Okay, so
just-
they are at their useful
They've
life.
already reached their end of life.
So in the new contract with the new management company, is there going to be, some requirements of their handling of the daily maintenance? And if it doesn't
They are
occur-
required currently to
or the
handle
regular
day-to-day routine and preventive maintenance. And then there's other requirements on the city that we would work with them to go ahead and put measures in place and performance measures in place.
Okay, so someone will be inspecting that work is being done, that the investment is being,
Correct, that's the
Protected.
intention. Mhm.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jimenez, I believe it's your light. Is it yours?
Yes, Madam President.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
know, these are names.
You're getting all these different names there. Well, one of my questions was already answered. I was going to ask how old the existing chillers are. So if they're 20 years, yeah, they pretty much serve
Yes.
their life. A lot of times in projects or buildings or facilities such as these, there's a lot of, and somebody touched on that, there's a lot of funding that's always put into the visual aspect of it. And a lot of people put, you in the public perception, you want to have that beautiful building or so. So you, in essence, and I guess the result of that is that sometimes this maintenance and all this stuff gets, because nobody sees the chiller. It's up on the roof.
And
or
maybe
it's
at
in
the time they're
mechanical
working
roof.
fine, and then maybe
yeah.
it wasn't,
Yeah, you
prioritization
put
was a
it
little
off.
lower. And then COVID hit, of course, we have to
Yeah.
remember COVID, we just are getting out of that. But during COVID, I mean, there was no event, so prioritization of some projects
Mm-hmm.
also went down in scale, and efforts were put in elsewhere. So I think this is, the timing is
Yeah.
correct.
No, and our chillers and dehumidification is really important. I've analyzed and inspected several government buildings in the past where the chillers had failed, and they leave the building sitting for, sometimes even just a couple of months. And it doesn't take much for mold to grow and for your, in essence, one project that I had could have been fixed for like $200,000, and by the time the chillers, again, the chillers had failed, and by the time we got in there and did our assessment, you're looking at like $1.5 million or
Correct.
for
And there's some
something that
humidification upgrades to that system as a whole as well.
I saw that that's part of it. So I think this is it's a big priority, and if they were to fail, I would say within weeks or months you probably start having
Days.
other
Yeah.
issues. No, yeah. So I mean, I know it's important. It's something that needs to happen. Now, the other point that I wanted to make is we saw that Jeff mentioned that we have probably about $30 million worth of repairs or so. And I
That's
feel
throughout the
throughout the whole facility.
complex.
Yeah.
Yes.
So where I was gonna go is kind of like, okay, out of the $6.5 million that are being requested, 1.3 million are for the visual, the landscaping, which is also needed, but
Well,
is
we
what
have to remember, if I may
yeah, go ahead.
address that
Yes, yes.
concern. Like Jeff mentioned, we have to really tackle both
Yeah.
the building envelope and the
and
equipment,
the-
but also keep up with trends. I mean, to put in perspective, we recently did a different assessment, economic impact on by the American Bank Center and that as a destination and tourist. I mean, hence, that's
they
why the
wanna see
funding is
that.
in place,
Yeah.
correct? It is the top destination in Corpus Christi for the region. It's at the top, followed by Whitecap Beach, and followed by the State Aquarium Marina, the Lexington.
No.
So we have at the American Bank Center over 900,000 visitors that come. It's a major destination, and I think we have to balance the two efforts together. And now the landscaping, I know it sounds impactful, and but it is more than just plants. It's a landscaping with irrigation. There's lighting, as you probably have noticed during Buck Day. There's some items that we had to bring in for Buck Days, additional lighting, because it is quite dark.
Yeah.
In certain,
Yeah.
especially in the arena by the ticket office. They've just OBG went in with personnel and did a replacement of the existing lighting fixtures there. But we do need some lighting, irrigation. All the irrigation is gone, so they have to tear that up. There's also some concrete work and construction that it would be involved, and really enhancing the features of the complex for not just the community, but also visitors.
Yep, I appreciate it. Yeah, one of the things I would recommend is just, looking at that list of those $30 million of improvements that you have, I would probably put the chillers, way
It's
up, way up there first. And my recommendation would be, okay, look at the 1.3 million that you're asking for landscaping. Is there something that's more critical than that, or is there, just give us some sort of evaluation again, it's needed. I know that the winter storm we had did a number on irrigation systems and everything, but what I'm trying to say is just, okay, what else besides the chillers? Is there something that we'll reallocate these monies within a month or so, something else fails that could have been priority number 2, or maybe even doing partial, putting some xeriscape or some sort of,
Yes,
some,
xeriscaping is
to where
definitely
you
part of that.
limit the irrigation, and just give us some options there, and also look at the priorities. But thank you for everything you're doing and your time.
You got one more? Ms. Summers has another question.
On the landscaping that was affected by the winter storm, was any of that filed on insurance, the replacement of that?
There was some that what is the storm,
FEMA?
but there was some that is just, again, preventive maintenance, or that it ran its course. I'm not aware of filing of a claim at this time for that.
1.3 million in that line item is a big budget number, and so I would hope that
Yeah, and some
if
of
we
it
did
is
have another winter
enhancements.
storm, we're not coming back for another 1.3 million to
Right.
replace all that irrigation. I understand it's expensive to do.
Yes.
But I think we do need to look at making sure that those line items are covered by insurance, and should we have another storm, that could be something that could be filed on. I also agree with JJ on, I toured the facility, and I think there are some desperately needed repairs for it, and it's an asset. It's an asset for the city, and it's in a location of town where it is subject to a lot of very harsh environment conditions.
Correct.
So it is going to take a lot of maintenance, and understand that sometimes those useful lives are shorter in those conditions. But making sure that we really are prioritizing those things that that bring people to use that convention center, like the ice chiller, things that bring people to the arena. And so I do kind of worry that if we go down the landscaping route, are we going to be giving up other items?
Do I understand, and I want to say something here. I think the captioning is bad. What you're saying is lighting, landscape. I mean, it's more than just plants. And when you
Correct.
put landscaping.
There's construction involved
people-
and improvements and
people think
enhancements.
you're just talking about plants, because obviously you're not going to plant in the summer. So, you know, what you're really talking about is rehabilitation of the grounds around it, including additional lighting. Is that what I understand?
Additional lighting, construction of
Medians.
beds that are not currently there. So it's beyond the storm. That's what I was trying, to your point. And then also it goes from Resaca, which is the arena ticket office, into Shoreline, those islands that are there and facing the bay. So it's quite substantial. I mean, you're talking about a complex that sits in over 3 acres of, like 3.3 acres. It is quite large. And this is part of a larger project, which is, deferred maintenance from upgrades and then potentially an expansion in the future, depending where that goes. That conversation is larger, but it is really about enhancing the existing facility, taking care of a community asset, and going into the next phase into the future to continue offering this facility for the community for years to come.
Okay.
Thank you. This is for Heather. Heather, what does the American Bank Center fund bring in? I know you had it up here. Annually, what does it bring in annually?
So the Type A for the arena is
Yeah.
about $8 million.
Okay, so now the arena, that includes the convention center too, right? It doesn't? So then how do we fund the convention center portion of it?
So the convention center is funded primarily through the operations of the convention center, along with supplement from our hotel occupancy tax. So
Okay.
that's one of the challenges we have, is that we do have a lot of money sitting in the arena fund, but that can only be used for the arena, or the percentage of an allocation, like for the landscaping, it can only be used for a certain percentage of that landscaping that would
Right.
benefit the arena, for the benefit of the arena.
Okay, so the arena brings in roughly 8 million a year. So our balance was roughly 19 million?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to take 6.5 from there. We're going to be left with 13.
Yes.
Jeff's going to probably bring to us a comprehensive capital improvement program in the $30 million range ballpark. How do we accelerate getting all of that done? Can you bond against it?
So I believe that $30 million is for the convention center and arena.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
What's-
that's for the whole complex. So what we'll do is, during the budget process, we are planning on bringing more of that back to you for discussion
Okay.
on what those things are. The other thing that we have to do is, if we choose, if the council's decision to move forward with the convention center and arena expansion, then we will need to see what is needed to be done immediately, then what can be done as part of that expansion and renovation piece.
Yeah, because, I mean, we don't really need the convention center information because we don't fund that. So ballpark, Jeff, what are you thinking that the arena needs by itself?
It might be an additional four or five.
Okay, okay.
Can you come
We
to
can
them?
afford that.
Yeah, it'll be an additional about 4 to 5
Yeah, and
million.
Somewhat.
when you're quoting those balances, that is as of 2 months ago too. So
Right.
That
there's
is
still
correct.
another 4 million to come in this year or something like
Exactly,
that. Right.
exactly, yes. Yeah, so
Okay.
that fund balance will continue to grow.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate it,
Sure.
Heather.
Okay, I had a few quick questions only. First of all, that chiller system is not connected in any way to feeding into the water garden, is it?
No.
Is that just coming off the convention center chillers?
No, and I think it's a little bit confusing. So you've got the convention center side,
Right,
which has 3 chillers that serve that loop that feeds the whole complex.
Complex.
The art museum, the
Got it.
science museum, the harbor playhouse.
and that refuge water goes to does it still go to will it go to the water garden as a feeder?
Well, I think it's a closed loop.
Oh,
It's
okay. I
not-
thought it was
It's
in a-
just
yeah.
chilled water that's going to all of
Circulating,
those
okay.
buildings. And then you've got 2 chillers there that just serve the arena.
Got it.
And that's what we're talking about here.
So as I understand it, under this new system, the city will be responsible for engaging someone to do periodic assessments and any heavy maintenance or requirements.
I think
The
there's greater-
contractor will still required to have day-to-day. Do they have an engineer on staff? So
Elsie,
they
again.
have no facilities engineer?
They have operations personnel, not an engineer on site, since they are doing preventive maintenance. So for something of this scope,
No,
of
I
like
know- I
chillers,
under-
they
yeah, I-
hire a company that does the preventive maintenance. They service out those
Okay, so they have a
type particulars.
contract for
Yes.
the preventative maintenance?
Yes.
In
Okay.
accordance with our contract, Madam President, anything that requires an engineer must go through the city's engineering department. So-
Well,
so we handle
I
all the-
called it an engineer,
Right.
but
Oh.
it's, it's more like a superintendent for.
Oh, yes,
but yeah.
that type of personnel they do. Yeah, they have personnel specific for operations
Yeah, I
to
don't
walk
think
the
they were
facility and
licensed or-
assess at the immediate repairs, yes.
I guess one thing that it occurred to me, and I just want to say, I know y'all have got a lot coming after you, but, so 6 months ago, we got this report. And today, it's an emergency. And I'm just having a little, I'm not saying I'm not going to favor it, but that's a struggle for me to not have seen this earlier and be able to maybe have a little more understanding of it. I also thought the detail provided us, with all due respect, was rudimentary. And I've had calls, and I think part of it is because if you read those agenda items, you really don't understand what's happening. It's taken us 30 minutes to understand it, and probably could spend another 30 minutes on it. So I just ask y'all to give us a little bit more beef on the bones and not send something out on Friday night that is an item that attracts some public interest, including media interest, by the way. So see what we can do about that. I know y'all struggle. You got a lot coming at you, so I'm sympathetic. Do I hear a motion in favor?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Ms. Sanchez, do you have a report?
No, ma'am, not today. Thank you.
Thank you. If there is no further, Mr. Wilson said he had to be out of here at 2:45. Meeting is adjourned.